If on any level you're interested in 4X games, then Port Royal 4 is certainly a title to take a look at. It's brand new, it released on the 25th of September and is available for the Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, as well as of course the PC. If you want to find out more information, there is a link in the video description, do go check it out. Now, the developers behind the game recently reached out to me asking if I'd like to do a sponsored video, and as I'm a big fan of strategy games and trading and all the rest of it, I was more than happy to jump in. So then, let's start at the beginning with the main menu. A lot of nice options here. We've got a great selection of tutorials. I've gone through all of them there, except for the last one, Naval Battle Training. It gives you some indication of how long these take with the timer over on the side. There's about an hour's worth or so of tutorials here that cover most of what you need to know to actually get going. They explain the game very, very well. Now, you can play the game in a freeform or free game, which allows you to play absolutely how you want. We can jump in and do some campaigns, which is what we're going to do in this video. You can do a campaign with the various colonial empires. We got England, the Netherlands, France, as well as Spain. These campaigns are locked. We do need to do the Spain campaign first, which is what we're going to look at right now. And you can see over on the right is the map of the Caribbean. But let's continue right here. Now, you can see with the character, this is the guy who's in charge of our little empire. We basically get some stats from this person. This is the Buccaneer, but we can choose other characters as well. Each of these will give you different pros and cons. You can select your own flag, and a word of advice here, perhaps go for a brightly coloured flag, because it will make it easier for you to identify your ships on the world map. But dark is also quite good. That's what I went for right here. Now, I skipped the intro video so we could get right into things. Down on the bottom left is the Viceroy. This is the guy who's in charge of the Caribbean on behalf of the selected empire, and he will tell us what he wants us to do or not do. Now, look at the size of the map here. We go all the way down here to the southern tip of South America. We got the Caribbean islands here, the Bahamas and all the rest of it. On the northern side of the Caribbean, we can see Florida, New Orleans, and the eastern coast of Mexico. So plenty of area to actually be getting on with. There's a total of 60 different cities all around here, cities, towns and ports. Most of them you'll have to locate as you're playing them. There's a nice little look in New Orleans there. Love the river deltas. Actually, the graphics here are very, very nice. You can see that the waters are much more shallower towards the coast, and in a minute we'll zoom in and you'll be able to actually see below the water's surface. It's a nice touch, but as I was saying, there's 60 different towns. Straight off the bat you can see your own towns, the ones from the other empires you'll have to discover as you play. In the journal we can see the tasks that have been sent us for this particular campaign. Obviously these tasks would be different depending on the campaign you choose. Now, this one, the Spanish one, does focus, at least initially, on trading and production. But the game's not entirely about that. It does form a strong foundation for the game, but there's also combat, searching for treasure maps, and other various items. So, as I said, the game isn't entirely about trading and production. You can play it pretty much how you want. It's an open-ended game, so if you want to focus on combat, you can actually do that. We can see some vessel tactics here, which are devoted to combat, or if you so want, you could actually become a pirate and make your way or make your money that way. Doing all of these will increase or decrease your reputation accordingly, of course, with your empire as well as the neighbouring empires. Here then is our main town. This is Seville. We can see we've got the town itself, the production tabs and various other tabs. The trade one is especially important. That's something we're going to have a look at as we get going. At the top of the screen we can see various options. Up on the top right there we can see our convoys. Convoys contain your ships. They contain a single ship or multiple ships depending on how you set them up. The Viceroy tab is something you'll constantly return to. The audience will tell you some things that the Viceroy would like you to do. You don't have to do them, but you can. Fame is very important because it allows you to unlock various things. Currently there's no known pirates in the region, and concessions. These are basically unlocks that give us different abilities. You can buy these with fame points there. So yeah, captain. We get captain's licenses. This means we can hire a captain for our convoy. The more captains you want, the more of these you'll have to unlock. Other concessions here allow you to use special types of buildings, such as the brewery or the cloth manufacturing, indeed any other such thing. You can unlock more of these as you play. So we started off right there, as you saw, with a number of fame points, but we're not going to use them just yet. And let's zoom right in and have a closer look at our main town. Now, with our main town, we can completely manage it ourselves. We're basically the administrator here, which means we can build town buildings, businesses, and just about everything that we want to. You won't have the same privileges with the other Spanish towns straight away. That's something you'll need to earn over time. But each tile here can have a different building type on it, and each of them will afford you different abilities or different bonuses. So obviously, housing for the population, marketplace for people to trade from. Over here we've got the lighthouse. This is where you can set up your new convoys. And then of course we've got the shipyard, where you can purchase and sell new ships. You can also have ships constructed later on in the game. Ships can be quite expensive or quite cheap depending on which type you actually purchase. At the moment we don't have any options other than for the schooner here. So we'll come back to that a little bit further on. Over here are our 3 convoys. These are each individual ships at the moment. You could probably, or I could probably merge them into a single convoy, but we're not going to do that. We actually want to use these for trading. So let's sort that out. I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit here. Of those little sinkholes on the land. Right, so there's a number of ways of trading. You can manually take your ship around and do it like that. In fact, let's just give you a bit of an idea there. So the currently selected ship has nothing in its cargo hold. We can then select the town, want to look at the trade menu to see which commodities the town actually wants and which it actually sells. You can see it's got some fruit, 2 green bars, says it's got a reasonable amount of stock. Obviously if it's all red then it hasn't got much stock at all. This will increase the price. If it was 4 green bars then it would have an abundance of stock and the price would be much lower. So if we want, we could use this interface to manually trade. We could load up our ship with a bunch of cargo, take it to another port, and then offload it, hopefully, for a profit. Now, manual trading would take quite a while, especially when you've got a whole bunch of convoys, so we don't want to have to rely on that. Fortunately then, we've got automated trading, which we're going to have a look at in just a moment. But first, let's have a look at the campaign task requests and see what it is we actually need to do. So we have to trade with 5 different towns, deliver 1,000 commodities from production towns, and we've also got the 3rd one actually already set. So let's start some trading routes. Now as soon as we open the automatic trading route window, we get to see the trading winds, or the winds in the actual environment. Right there in the middle, the winds are very high. These are prone to having storms in them. You don't really want to sail through them unless you have to. It's also much better to have the wind behind you when you're sailing, so we'll go in the direction of the winds around the Caribbean here. You can sail against the winds, but it will slow you down. Now we just select all the towns here that we want in our trading route. I'm just going to go around the coast and choose each one of these. The ship should hug to the coast and get a nice pace of travelling here because we're actually travelling with the winds. Now over here we're coming to New Orleans. New Orleans isn't part of the Spanish Empire, so we can't actually see any towns there. What we're going to do is drag the trading route up. As we bypass the coastal area here, we should hopefully discover the towns or any ports that exist there, but we also want to avoid the big red central area there, just in case the winds are too strong or in case there's any storms. So let's click on Havana, and the last port there, and that gives us a full loop. We could also go down into the southern part of the Caribbean, but we're not going to do that for this particular trade route. Now over here we can select a town and choose which goods we want to buy from that town. In this case we could buy fruit, and we could say let's sell the fruit at the next town along. Of course it'll take time to go through each town and work out the supply and demand for each, so there's an easy way of dealing with that. We can just enable automated trading. What this means is that as your convoy enters a port, it will automatically purchase the relevant item and then sell it at the relevant port. And we're going to do this for each town here. Now if you want, you could also set prices so that your ship won't pay more than a set price. You could set the maximum price. Currently it's automatic, the game will manage that for us, and it does a pretty good job of it. We could also just set the automatic option there to whatever. It literally does say whatever, at which point the ship will just buy and sell at whatever price, regardless of whether it's too low or too high. But if we leave it on automatic, it's optimized for making you a profit on this trade route. But there will be some occasions where you want to sell regardless of what the price is, even if that means you want to sell at a loss. Right, so over on the right there, we can see this is going to take 34 days. I think we're just about ready to confirm that. We then need to assign this particular trade route to a convoy. We can see there's no convoys on this route. You can have multiple convoys on the route if you want. And we're just down the bottom, we're going to assign that to the currently selected ship, the Aventurine. Currently not doing anything, so let's assign that, and that ship will now go on its route, on its way. And there you go, the little grey flag with the crossed swords on it. Another interesting thing here, if you zoom in at the time of the game, the time passing will actually go a little bit slower. And some lovely looking graphics there. Sometimes you do see some sharks and whatnot following you around. So we're just about to come into this port here. There's some Spanish military ships here. And we should be able to see, yep, there we go. The ship has automatically picked up some goods from this port. We'll then take them to the next port along and either pick up some more goods there or sell these ones. And we've got some other Spanish merchants doing their job there as well. So there we go, he's picked up some more goods. And no doubt some wild adventures await the crew of this ship as they go from port to port conducting their trade. Hopefully they don't get ambushed by any pirates, although I don't think that happens in the early stages of this campaign. It's quite well managed and set in that regard. It's a very good introduction to the game overall in fact. Now we're going to set another trade route here. I created a second one, we're now editing it. We're going to set another ship going around the southern parts of the Caribbean. It looks a bit more difficult here though due to those trade winds. I'm not going to be able to take advantage of all of them. In some cases we're going to be selling against them, so we'd be going a little bit slow, but no problem. Let's go downwards from Seville. Again, we're going to select each town or port in turn, all the way down through to the southern parts of the Caribbean and right the way back up again. As you can see, each town is added into the towns list over on the side. And as before, once all the towns are selected on the trade route, we're just going to automate the trade itself. So with those trade routes conducting themselves before much longer, we've achieved the first objective. Very handy. Now as we achieve objectives, new ones will get unlocked once the Viceroy's finished telling us what's what. We can see a little star up there on the top of the journal anyway, indicating that there's something new there. Right, so we've got a tick next to the top one. We've traded with 5 different towns, but as yet we haven't got any new tasks unlocked. And that's simply because this one is going to need to fulfill itself. That will happen as the convoys go around on their trade route. So yeah, hopefully they're going to get a little bit busy. Now up on the top there we can see we've got 70,000 or just slightly less now, 68,000 units of gold coins. That's our currency. That should start increasing as the trade routes conduct themselves. So total profits on that one is a loss of 36,000. That's not good at this particular time, is it? But that will slowly increase over time. Don't let that put you off. Current pay revenue per day is 0. Let's have a look at the other trade route. So that's a net loss as well at the moment. These will slowly improve over time though. We'll come back to that and have a look in a little while. Now from time to time the game does throw additional things at you, side quests as such, or different activities, and just as our trade ship has come past the centre part of the screen there, we can see a yellow circle has appeared. And this is a new task, an optional task. What does it say? Some commodities, let's get a bit closer, some commodities are swimming in the water here. The storm must have raged and washed them overboard. You can pick them up with a convoy. No selected convoy nearby, so we need to get one of our convoys over this way. We're sending over the Napoleon right now. This ship isn't actually in any trade route at the moment. Okay, so our ships have achieved 1,000 units of produced items being shipped from port to port, but I'm going to get the Napoleon in here first because we want to pick up whatever is floating in the water. Right, we can accept that now. Let's accept that and see what we've got. Is it going to be something good? Yeah, pretty decent. And these are some fairly valuable and slightly harder to obtain commodities. Okay, so now that we've completed the initial 3 tasks for the campaign, some new tasks have unlocked. Now, I did make a bit of a mistake on this one initially. I couldn't work out what to do, and that's because I wasn't reading the blue text. It's very, very important to read that, as it gives you some good tips. It does say a tip there, so do keep an eye on that. But basically what we got to do is set up some businesses. In this case, we need to produce buildings. And you can see the wooden building there, which we need to produce, was greyed out. We couldn't select it. And that's because we need to buy a building permit, something we can't do just yet. We need to get our fame high enough with this particular town. We need to reach 100%. It's currently at 88%. And we increase that fame with the port through trading with them. So as your ships go around on their automated trade routes, it will slowly increase. That's how we've reached 88% here. But if you want to bump that up a bit faster, or if the town's not included in your trade route, then you can do that manually. So after a bit more trading, I finally unlocked the ability to buy the building permission permit. We're going to go ahead and do that. It's quite a chunk of money, actually. That will increase over time as well. Further into the campaign, the building permits actually get a bit more expensive. Right, you'll need to further 500 workers in this town before you can apply for town's administrations. Once you're a town administrator, you can actually build town buildings within a town. So that will allow you to basically build homes and attract more people to any particular town and then expand it. But for now, we can't do that. But what we can do is construct the business properties. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. The sawmill then is what you want to produce wood. We can place that in a number of different places. Now if we choose the grey areas here, right near the town, you can see all those unhappy faces. Now I don't want to upset anyone, so I'm not going to place the business too near them. I probably don't like the noise of all the wood cutting and all of that. So yeah, let's keep it well away. Basically, we want the relevant business in the green tiles, which are over here on the right. Okay, so we can choose any one of these. Now, right here, I placed the business rather too close to the town. Not realising that later on, as I want to expand the town, I'm going to end up with townhouses that are right near the business. So, yeah, not good. Best to try and construct the businesses further towards the edges of the boundary of the town. Something I didn't realise to do here, but something I sooner learned. I've also got to add some grain production facilities or businesses. We're going to do that in another town. And something that's worth keeping an eye on here is that each town has its own benefits for particular types of resources. So this town here is definitely optimized for grain production. So we're going to drop that in right here. Elsewhere, it's time to purchase some more ships. We're going to purchase these rather than construct them at the moment. So we're going to go to our main town and drop over on the shipyard. Now at this point, I didn't want to purchase the schooner. I wanted to get something a little bit better, something a little bit faster. It's also worth mentioning at this point that there actually is 18 historical ships available in the game. These are all modified, or based rather, on real-world ships. So I'm not going to go for the schooner. What's up from that is the sloop. Now this is a bit faster. It can even travel against the wind a bit faster. I don't want to spend 53,000 gold just yet, so yeah, let's go for the sloop. Okay, so we're going to need to put this into its own convoy. We could of course add it into an existing convoy, but we're not going to do that. I don't really see the need for it just yet, so we can just click on the vessel and move it over to a fresh convoy. For now, I'm just going to add this convoy to an existing trade route, and you can see these trade routes are now doing quite well. 77,000 credits in total earned, making 2,600 credits a day. So I'm going to add the new ship to that trade route just to see if it gives any additional profits. And there on the other one, you can see the extra money that's made. So overall, not too bad. Now, if you're anything like me and you enjoy management games, that's managing trades, managing ships and fleets and all that other good stuff, then so far at least, Port Royal 2 seems really good for this. So in many respects it's kind of a slow burn game, my type of thing. Right, we've completed another task here. Let's hear the Viceroy out. Alright, okay. Yeah, we've got one tick there. 4 businesses complete for wood production. Hopefully, very soon, we're going to have the production of cotton complete as well. In fact, that did happen while I had the menu open, I do believe, just as I was checking the other ones. At the bottom there, we've got 1,000 job seekers. That's something we're going to have to get on in just a bit. We're going to have to ship them from the main town, the Viceroy's town, and get them distributed around the Caribbean. Right, there we go. There's our grain businesses. So the next one is beer. And for beer, we need a concession from the Viceroy. We're going to build that in our town that's producing grain. There we go. There's a concession that we need. This will need a fame point. We've got plenty of those to spare at the moment. So there we go. We should have the brewery now unlocked. And you can see how our grain farms from earlier on are now building out very, very nicely there. Let's choose the brewery. We should be able to see where we can plant this or locate it. See the green icons? We gain a benefit from these. So over here we gain a benefit of being near the wheat, whilst over here we gain the benefit of being near the population or near the town. So yeah, preferably we want both. So we need 4 of these. Let's see where else we can situate them. Unfortunately we can't get both benefits, but 2 will do, so I guess any location really. Let's just plonk those down right here. So we're going to need to wait for those to complete. Meanwhile, over on the other side of the Caribbean, I've discovered New Orleans as well as a bunch of other towns up this way. Basically, I thought it a good idea to create some trade routes between these towns, but I also thought it a very nice idea just to have a close look, and these are actually gorgeous locations, aren't they? Quite different to what we see down on the mid-levels of the Caribbean, or my own towns. Quite impressed by the details there. But getting back to the tasks at hand, we've got the businesses for beer waiting. One thing I knew was going to take time was the bottom task there, the one where I effectively have to distribute 1,000 job seekers. These come in the form of sailors. You can just pick the sailors up, get them on board your ship, and then offload them at another city, or another port rather. They then become workers. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find a way to automate this, so for me at least, it was very much a manual process, and shipping them around, whilst not taking excessive amounts of time, did take a bit of time. And you can see the number jumping up there. It was a negative number initially, now it's at 22. Now, you may think to try and cheese this and keep delivering workers to the same port, very, very close to the original port of origin, but that won't work because as the here in Gibraltar, they keep getting more and more sailors. In the end, they just don't want any. They won't contribute towards your gold, so you will have to ship these around the different ports of the Caribbean. Eventually, though, I got the job done, at which point some new tasks unlocked. This time, it was for what the game called colonial commodities, and these ones are slightly different to the regular commodities because these ones are slightly more, quite a lot more valuable, and can in fact be sent back to Europe. You need to send them to the Viceroy's town. It will then forward them on to Europe. So yeah, we need to construct some business here. So this is basically how the early stages of the game goes, the campaign rather goes. It will introduce you one step at a time to different elements of the game, and it's actually a great way of being introduced to the game. All of these are things that are very valuable to use in the free mode game as well, and will of course help you with the slightly more complex campaigns that come next. For me, Port Royal 4 is very much a slow burn type game. A game you can sit and really think and spend some time putting consideration into. And generally it's very rewarding, at least I find it to be so. Now the further you get into the game, the more there will be to do, the more there will be to learn. Now you would have noticed that I didn't touch on combat yet in this video, and for those of you who have watched my YouTube channel for a long time, you'll know that's because I'm not really a combat focused player. In most games, I'm very much about doing the more peaceful activities, and if a game can do that in abundance, then generally speaking, I'm going to be very, very happy with the game. But that's not to say that Port Royal 4 doesn't have combat. Because it does, and combat in the game is turn-based. There's usually two ways to resolve combat. You can resolve combat manually, whether you want to get engaged directly yourself, or there's another way, which is automated combat. Now, there is a trick here. Generally, the favours have to be in your odds for you to actually use the automated combat feature, but if the favours aren't in your odds, then you will have to jump in and engage in manual combat. Combat is a fairly tactical thing. You will need some strategy here as well. You also have a bunch of features and effects that give you some advantages in the combat itself, and some of these will be benefits you gain from your captain. Ship-to-ship combat generally occurs with your cannons, but you can also get up close and board or attempt to board the other vessel, and the effectiveness of the boarding action will be determined by the number of sailors you have on board your ship versus the number of sailors on board the enemy ship. Now, if you don't fully destroy the enemy vessel, if you just basically disable it, you'll then be able to board it and plunder it, loot it. This will be a way of making extra money. It'll also be a way of getting into piracy, if that really is your thing. So combat then, in all its flavours, is very much a thing with Port Royal 4. So yes, it's an open-ended game. There's a number of different ways to approach it, and if any of this sounds like your type of thing, then do check out the links in the video description. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.